Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Growthclinicc podcast. Today we have a lot more. He's a writer and a former boxer, and in this episode we'll speak about self-defense, overcoming addictions, and Ed's boxing career. The funny story about Ed Latimore is I've been reading his content for about 2 years, and it's a great honor speaking to him now on this podcast. But I don't know, he's someone who helped me through a lot of stuff back then in 2019. And so how you doing, Ed?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, man. All right, so going through your content, I know I've been reading your content for quite a while now, and you always make jokes about addictions and crack and all of that. So before we start, let's get that out. What's that about? What's that about?
Yeah, so it's me talking about a part of my life, my childhood, really the things I saw, and just making humor out of it because
Yeah,
I grew up around a lot of stuff, a lot of crackheads and a lot of drug violence and drugs in general. And for me, I made it something to laugh at instead of something to be sad about. So that sense of humor has carried itself with me in other parts of my life, and I'm really happy. I know some people like don't get it, but after all, like, oh, okay, I get it, and they laugh and they enjoy the joke as well. And that's pretty much how it came about. I mean, I was never a crack kid myself. I had problems with alcohol, but uh, the jokes I make about crack, those seem to make a lot of people, laugh and
yeah.
and get something out of it.
So, but does it really get people offended? Like, do people call you insensitive for making those type of jokes, or how?
Um, you know, Sometimes they do, but here's the thing: it's like I get to like it's my experience, and no one can tell you what's funny.
Exactly.
Whatever you find funny is what you find funny. Now that's not a guarantee that other people are going to find it funny, but as long as you get some humor out of it,
That's what matters.
then that's all you can do. And I really think that's the most authentic way to live it as well. I mean, that really is what allows people to be different, and if you can't make fun of something, then it has power over you.
Yeah.
And so I try to make fun of these things so they don't, I'm not sad about them or anything like that. I want to have a joke about them. I mean, now, granted, I'll be the first person to be serious when it comes to dealing with the issue, but when you can't deal with it, it's something to have a laugh about.
So let's talk about your childhood. What was it like? You said you grew up in Pittsburgh and you were around a lot of crackheads. What was it like?
Well, I grew up really, really poor, really at least by American standards, and certainly in America. I grew up in public housing. I was raised by a single mom who was on and off of welfare. I really had, and then I dealt with the environment that tends to come with, which is a lot of other kids like that, a lot of neighborhood issues, violence and crime, and so I learned very early how to distance myself from that stuff, how to create a pocket around my mind,
Mm.
so it didn't get in. I mean, you're only a kid and stuff, some stuff still gets in, but I think that my approach to things really helped me in the long run deal with a lot of this stuff. Uh well, even during the day, and it also helped me see that a lot of it wasn't good, and it really spurred me to jump to different places like different schools and make different friends outside of the neighborhood. things like that. And that's really how I survived. Is I started to build a different location, one in my mind first, and then it started to recognize and it started to repeat itself or replicate itself in my actual reality.
Yeah. So was that like what inspired you to start boxing?
Well, no, the boxing stuff didn't start. Boxing is I didn't start fighting until I was 22.
Yeah.
And that was because I wasn't doing anything else in my life, and I needed something. I wanted something to not just be a loser, not just be a regular person. I get used to being more than that. So I tried to become more than that. I became, and part of that was deciding to go box. So but there really is no connection, and a lot of people think there are, but it, it there isn't. I grew up one way, and then the boxing is a completely different part of my life.
So, so like the boxing was after the addiction or before?
Yeah. Well, before really, I just I had to when you do something like boxing, you have to pour your entire self into it
Yeah.
to improve. And a lot of people, they figure out where their limitations are and where they want to improve and what they want to do. And for me, I found out that I had a lot of issues with alcohol, and so I had to get those under control. If I didn't get those under control, then I wouldn't be able to go as far as I did in boxing. I really believe that, and in other parts of my life.
So let's talk about your addiction. How did you know you were addicted to alcohol?
Little things. The well, no, not really little things. They're all big things, but
Mm.
there was it was how I was using it. Everything started to revolve around whether I could drink or not. And then when I drank it, it revolved around um how drunk I could get. It wasn't about enjoying drinks, it was about getting drunk. And those are two very different ways of drinking. Some people can just drink and they just enjoy a drink. I wasn't that guy. I always needed to get drunk, and then with that comes with the loss of ability to sway people. You start to see, and you start to um just have issues in your life. And when I started to have the issues and I couldn't ignore them, because I've always been a realist about things. Even when things were going well or going poorly, and when they're going poorly, it's more important to be a realist. And I looked and I said, this is really causing an issue. I really couldn't be in denial anymore. And I was, kind of mad at myself that I let it get that bad. But that's, how I knew, I guess, is that there were, and I was using a lot or drinking a lot. And then the method in which I was doing it, it was to get drunk. It wasn't to enjoy a drink, and it was frequent.
That's crazy. So do you think you were trying to escape something?
I think everybody who drinks is trying to escape something. I think for me, I was, maybe not necessarily trying to escape, but I was trying to become something. I thought this was a path to um to make myself feel relevant, to make myself feel important.
Yeah.
you know I think everyone wants to feel important. It's just how you go about developing your self-esteem. For me, I was like, let me try and be liked. I didn't realize how much more powerful being respected is. When you work to gain respect, you're a very different life, I found. And so the big issue is that I did not like who I was, and I didn't think people liked me. So I said, let me try and do the thing that makes people like me.
There's this analogy I always use, or this example from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That we all have needs, their self-actualizations, self-esteem, sense of belongingness, and physiological needs, and I think love needs or something. I feel like you talked about how you try to get your self-esteem or from
Mhm.
the you said get your self-esteem from drinking.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like today now, people who aren't addicted or don't use substances, like the better way or the healthier way is to get a craft. Like your self-esteem comes from now, right now. I feel like your self-esteem comes from your writing and the lives you're able to impact and all
Yeah.
of yeah and all of that. So I feel like if you're able to find something healthy, like a craft that can give that your self-esteem, like you can get your self-esteem from early enough, you'll be able to avoid those addictions. Do you agree?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I really, when people have meaning in their life, they don't
Yeah,
having meaning is a really it's a protector from a lot of things that degrade your life. And like it doesn't have to always come from an activity. A lot of people find meaning in their family and in their relationships. You want to have something that makes you go, I would feel, or rather, you want to have something that makes you feel like you'd be letting yourself down if you engage in the activity to and the negativities that come with it. Because I mean, that was another thing too. I think there was a very real part of my life. I mean, I didn't care if I went to prison or whatever like that. I mean, it didn't matter to me. But that's because I had a terrible self-image, and I didn't. I would never admit to such an idea, but it's true. I mean, and I see this a lot in a lot of people who drink. They don't understand. They don't realize it. Maybe or maybe they do, but they're all trying to find that meaning,
yeah,
and without that meaning, you have a you're susceptible to a lot of things, you know, and alcohol is one of them. It's a very easy thing because it comes with a lot of things that bring meaning. It comes with camaraderie and it comes with socialization, and you can gain a reputation, which is something everyone wants. They may not be the best reputation, but we want to be known for something. And alcohol comes with all of those things.
even when I was in second, I was in college, university. We call it university here in Nigeria. Like I used to smoke weed, and the esteem we got was from who could roll the best blunts or who could um hold their weed the longest, like who could stay the longest without getting high and all of that. Like we got our esteem from the dumbest things. So it just it just took a lot of growth to actually find something else that was meaningful to
Oh
to
yeah. Let's see, you get it. I mean, it's the same thing. These cultures, well, not culture, but I guess that's what it is. It's like a culture that springs up around your habit,
yeah,
and you start conforming to the rules of that culture. And in that culture, there's a hierarchy, and you
yeah,
want to try and be the top because that's part of the reason why you fell into that culture in the first place. You
yeah.
didn't feel belonging or admired or useful in the other one. So this is where you try and gain it. And there's very simple rules to getting it here. But those rules come at a cost. They're very easy to follow. Get drunk and get drunk some more. Very easy rule to follow as opposed to, show up at the gym 5 days a week or something like that. And so a lot of people gravitate to negative expressions or negative hierarchies.
So do you think all addictions are the same?
Do I think they're all the same? I
Yeah,
don't. I think they're all. I think that the underlying motivation for initially trying many things
Mhm.
is the same. And I think the lack of structure or lack of meaning, lack of purpose in one's life that makes them susceptible to addiction is all the same. Yeah. I know some operate on you differently, but they all need a way in, and I think the way in is the same. So they're different weapons, but the way they affect you, the way they get their claws into you, that first time, that's the same in every instance. I really think that, because I know guys that have, I mean, they've run studies, on rats that, when you isolate the rat and give it drugs, it's going to stay addicted and get addicted more easy. But when you put the rat back with his social group and his family or whatever, it's a lot harder to get the rats addicted, and keep them that way. And so you extrapolate from that. I mean, I was saying I know guys that have smoked crack on many different occasions, and then they just were like, all right, I don't like this, so they didn't get addicted to it. Compare that to some people who do. People, a lot of, we all eat food, but not all of us gets addicted to food in the sense that, we can't control how we go about doing it. Y'all go about, we can't control the relationship we have with it. So yeah, I think the underlying mechanism for addiction is the same, but how something gets you addicted, that's definitely different. Like heroin, for example, works in a completely different way, um than we'll say booze, and but both situations to try, to access or develop that, I think those are born out of the same place.
But I feel like for porn, for example, now porn starts out as curiosity. Most teenagers watch porn or something out of curiosity to see what it looks like. But weed, for example, most people start smoking weed out of peer pressure, like, oh, their friends are doing this, let me join in the fun. So I feel like the way it starts can be a little bit different. Like for porn and weed, for example, porn starts as curiosity. Oh, you're curious that what does this feel like? What is this? And yeah.
Yeah, that's 100%. It's not a, and once again, this is another thing we know that the more trauma kid experiences or a traumatic event, we know that that makes them more likely to try an alcohol
Yeah.
or a drug, and the brains at that point are different. The environment that they're around is different. That makes it more susceptible that they become real victims. They really become trapped by the substance because it initially gives them something that perhaps was taken from them or they don't have anymore.
Mhm. Like everybody's just looking for an escape.
Yeah.
So do you think if okay, from on the sides of the parents now, do you think loving your kids more or exposing them to less trauma can reduce addiction? Do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you want to have them be resilient, but you don't want to have them go through avoidable trauma. Where there is no, and I would say trauma. A really good definition in this case would be an adverse event that exceeds your ability to adapt to it, and so you have to, because that's one of the ways we grow, is that we go through hard things or uncomfortable things, and we learn how to defend against them or how to handle ourselves in that case. And so that, and if that experience given to a kid too soon is traumatic, so you gotta gauge that. But you want to make sure, there are some events you don't really learn from and take anything from, so those are always traumatic. But kids are particularly susceptible because they're feeling their way out, and so if you can continually challenge them and let them know that they're, but remove these adverse childhood events, as they're called, from a child's life, you greatly decrease the odds of them becoming addicted to stuff. You not only try 'em, but on the off chance they try, as kids tend to do, far less likely to gain meaning from it, and far less likely to feel like they need to belong in the group that gives them meaning.
Yeah. But what do you think makes children more resilient? Because I feel like there are so many artists like musicians, sports personalities who are addicted to substances, and these guys were given the right challenges. They're given, because it's not easy for a child of 13 years old to train morning and night to become the best. Don't you think? What do you think about that? How do you properly raise your children to become more resilient that will shield them from
I
getting?
mean, yeah, a lot of it is just remembering. I mean, people, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I can't even pretend to know how to do it, but I do know that it is something that needs to be done, and most people don't learn about these things. So, there is that. But if if part of what I'll do as a parent, and hopefully this turns out, we won't know for years, but one of the things I'll do is make sure that the love of the family is never questioned. I think if you can create that environment, you're really ahead of the game in many ways. That because a lot of, you can remember. I mean, we're talking about athletes, for example. In the sports where this is more prevalent, like, or issues are more prevalent, anyhow. You're talking about a lot of kids who were in single parent households, and maybe one parent had to work. As you get older, you can retroactively look back and understand that. But when you're younger, that's very, like you don't know. You don't see your mom often. It's not very there as a support system. So making sure that I'm in a position to be that support system, and so the kid never questions that, I think goes a long way in preventing the kind of adverse childhood experiences that lead to addiction.
So letting a child be a child in a household of love is a key way to prevent addiction. Right?
Yep.
So how did you quit your alcohol addiction?
I just I looked at I took a conscious look at everything around me, and I said, this is holding me back, and I wanted something. I had a chance to become something greater than I was, and I looked at all the ways that I had stumbled before, and I said, okay, the commonality in all of these places I've failed has been my relationship with alcohol, and I have some really big changes to make in my life. Really a big chance to do so. Let me get those changes under control. Let me see what happens. And so I took a logical approach. I had to trick myself, kinda. I said I'm gonna stop for 2 years and see how far I get, and maybe I'll drink again. But in those 2 years, in doing so, I learned so much, and I saw myself grow so much. I said, why would I ever want to go back to this? This is not worth it. This is not what I want.
So like what were the daily practices? Because 2 years consists of 700 and something days, if I'm right. What were the daily practices? How did you?
Oh, no daily practices. I was just really busy with my life. I mean, I was pretty much living and building a purpose up. I was not, I was busy training. I had military stuff. I was in school. I was trying to be good in my relationship.
Yeah.
So all of these things came together, and one, the big thing is that it completely removed the time I would have had available to drink. Got rid of that completely.
Mm.
All right. And then the other thing it did was that it gave me a new way to feel important, because I felt important not because of how people were looking at me and that they like me. I felt important because of what I was doing, and, and who I had become. And so those two things, working on the task to completely, removing any time to do something, and then getting far enough in that to where I was getting, recognition for that task as opposed to something else. That made a
Mm.
big difference,
You got your
you know.
self-esteem from, wow, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but being busy was kind of awesome.
Mm. Like you got your self-esteem from the recognition you got from the other tasks you're doing apart from drinking. So it replaced the need for to drink to get your self-esteem together. So that's one part that was solved. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So what of something like addiction? Because I feel like a lot of young people struggle with
Yeah.
that.
Porn is interesting because of all the other things that all the other addictions, it tends to be the one that's done by yourself. You do it solitary. You don't do it with a bunch of your friends. So that becomes more difficult to treat. So you got to come up with a different way and a different strategy. And for me, it starts by looking at the ways in which the addiction is affecting my life, and then working backwards from there. I'm going, okay, this is a problem. Let me fix this. Let me do something to stop this. Like for me, I was like, all right, I'm in this great relationship. I don't ever want the porn to be an issue. Uh, it didn't seem like something that was like becoming of a guy. And three, it drains your energy, so you can't give it to a lot of flesh and blood woman. And so that's also embarrassing. I said I don't want to ever experience those things
Mhm.
again. Certainly not in a relationship with somebody I care about. So that started the negative, kind of kickback where I was like, okay, let's avoid this. Let me figure out how to make sure I don't have to deal with this. And that meant getting off of porn.
So it's like thinking about the next person and what your addiction does to your relationship with the next person and to yourself. But
Yeah.
yeah, what about the willpower? How do you build your willpower to? Because many times you say you stop watching porn or doing those things, and one day you just find yourself in the process. What makes you refer to
Um.
that?
Well, part of what I believe is is what the environment is like to make it possible for you to watch porn. Not even that you will or won't, but like make it possible. And so when you put yourself in that environment, you make it more likely. This is one of the reasons why they talk about, people in AA don't go to bars, or why you got to hang around with new friends, because you're in that environment again. Okay. So I would say, once you recognize it, once because there are a lot of parts, not a lot of parts, but there are some parts to this that are legit tough love. And I look and I go, look, once let's put it like this. If I tell you, if you're trying to get off porn, I say never use your computer without people being able to see you. And you do that, then it's going to be very difficult for you to ever start watching porn again, right? You'll crave it, but now we're talking about willpower. I mean, we're talking about the discipline. These are things that there's no quick fix for them. All I can do is all we can do is set the environment up so you can do something and make some moves with that. If you do that, you're in good shape.
Makes sense. So let's talk about your boxing career. It's you say you started at 22 and ended at 28. How did you manage to do that? Because I know the people I know who box started it much earlier. How did you manage to,
I went and found a place, and I wanted to fight, and so I looked at everything on the internet, and I was like, wow, um, here are my options to do this. Let's do it this way, and it ended up working out fine. A lot of people think that there's a such thing as being too old or too young. I mean, the reality is there's no rule that says you can't do it, right? So I said, this is what I want to do. There's no rule that says I can't do it. There's no age limit. So let me go and do it. And I'm really happy I did that, because that caused my life to go a certain way. And that's how I started. I wanted the box. So I went and found the gym, and got to work, and really put a lot of energy and effort into to getting better.
were you always a fighter? Did you always love to box? Because it's weird to just say I want to become a boxer just out of the blue, like at the age of 22. Did you yeah, did you always love fighting or
Um, I mean, no, I mean, I had fought when I was a kid, like most kids in my situation, but there was nothing that I wasn't pulled to it or repelled by it. I just thought, okay, this is a good thing and a cool thing to try and do, to fight.
so what was your first professional fight like? How did you feel?
Um, my first pro fight. Well, I felt relaxed because
Really?
a I had a 4 year,
Oh,
four
oh,
five 5 year amateur career before my first pro fight.
oh.
So and that's what the amateurs do. So I had this amateur career, and I had probably like 60 fights as an amateur. So when I got in there, I was like, all right, I'm relaxed. But I got hit, and I was like, oh wow, that's a real thing. These 10 ounce gloves are different, because in the amateurs you use 12-ounce gloves, and the padding is distributed differently, and you got a headgear. I've never been hit by 12-ounce or 10-ounce gloves, and I felt a little wobbly. But you go in there and you figure it out, and you have a good time, and you learn how to fight, and that's exactly what I did. It was good though. I remember being relieved when the guy didn't beat the count. I knocked him down, and then I tried to, you know, I knocked him down, and he went wobbly, and then I hit him again, and he didn't get up for the second count. And I was like, yeah, I won the fight. It was relieving. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I can do this.
Were you always confident in your craft, like your boxing craft?
That's an interesting question. I knew I could do it. I don't think I had more confidence than the average fighter, or less. I just always approached it very, very workmanlike.
Mhm.
And so in doing that, I knew that if I just kept getting better, that I'd keep getting better. But I knew what I knew, and I knew what I could do, and I could get, just get better, and I enjoyed that part, so it was never really a big deal. The confidence issue, like, I never lacked confidence, is the best way to put it.
Mhm. So what was the daily training like? Did you train every day? Did you have to train 7 times a week?
No, because that's really bad for you. You don't want to train that often. I probably trained, like, as a pro, especially. Well, no, as an amateur, I had a pretty stringent training routine as well. For 6 days a week, but it's probably better to count the hours, not the days in a week. I probably trained a total of 30 hours a week.
That's crazy. And
So
do you still train that much now?
no, 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 because when you train 30 hours a week, for something that you do for a living, you don't that's not it's not fun. Like I train enjoyable now. Like I'll go I worked out in the morning this morning, did lifted some weights and ran. Or I didn't run, I lifted some weights. And then this evening I'll probably go to the gym and hit the bag for like an hour. But to work out, to put 30-35 hours a weekend, that though never, I don't want to say never again because you never know, but never again. I can't see myself going back to that. That's a hard life. People don't realize how hard of a life boxing is.
So who was like your role model? Was it Muhammad Ali? Who?
No, I looked at, I studied fighters who were built like me, which meant I studied a lot of Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
As far as guys to look up to as fighters, I really like the tough guys. I was a big fan of Arturo Gatti, big fan of Roberto Duran. Um, yeah, those are the two guys I really like looking at their fights and their out of the ring persona.
So
And Marvin Hagler, big Marvin Hagler fan too. I like, but he's got that workmanlike approach, not flashy, just go in there and very strong in the ring.
and you watched the movie Rocky, yeah?
Hmm?
You've seen the movie Rocky.
Yes.
So in a fight, you and Rocky, who will win? Like just saying, who do you think will win in the fight between
Oh
you guys?
man, he probably went, man. He a tough guy.
Yeah, he can take a lot of punches. I don't
Yeah.
understand how he does it. But
Yeah, that's perfect.
do you think his strategy makes sense? Do you think his I know it's fictional, but
Once you watch a Rocky movie after you fought, it's
mm,
crazy, man. He got hit a lot.
yeah,
Got hit too many times. I mean, I don't know how you get hit that many times, especially at the heavyweight division, and you still gonna be able to fight.
all the brain injuries and all. I don't understand his strategy at all.
Yeah, it's a rough sport. It's not the kind of thing that you take lightly when you get into it because you will get hurt if you don't take it seriously.
Do you still
And
have
and
do you still have any injuries from your boxing days?
not really. No, I mean I'll say no, right? I mean I don't think okay, so I don't think my balance is 100%. I think my balance is still off, and it'll probably always be that way. But but other than that, I mean, no, I'm well. Okay, wait. Let me refract that. I have a plastic implant under my left eye because
Really?
I got a blowout fracture. But like I can't feel that or notice it. I'm just I'm just I survived with probably fewer injuries than the average fighter because I didn't have a super long professional career where you take the most damage.
How long
I
was
had
it again? How long was your career
my
again?
my professional career 2030. So it's funny, man. My professional career was only 3 years. Now that I think
Uh,
about it, well, a little longer than 3 years, more like four if you count it correctly.
yeah, but
Um,
you were an amateur for 4 years now, so that's like 8 years.
Yeah. Amateur, 2016. I mean, I consider my true retirement 2018 because I was training for a fight and got injured.
Mm.
So, we'll say my career 2018 to 13. So 5 years pro and 6 years amateur. 2007. Yeah. So I just didn't have that long of a career, and because of the way I fought, I actually didn't get hit very often. So I'm pretty good, man. No injuries. Brain works mostly okay.
So what was your strategy like? Did you were you like Muhammad Ali that dances around the ring? Are you
No, no,
Mayweather? Are you
I was very slip and movement like Mike Tyson. In fact,
yeah?
we looked at a lot of what Mike Tyson and not George, Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier did, but because they had a similar style.
That must have been fun, but I don't think I'm ever boxing professionally.
Mhm.
Do you think everybody should be a boxer?
Not really, man. Like it's a really dangerous game. I think everyone should take an amateur fight. Um, train for it, see what that's like, do the work, and get better. And really see what that training and lifestyle is like. But I would not recommend most people to do this professionally because this is a hard life. The way I say it, it's a hard way to make it even harder living.
Yeah, what was the pay like as a in your time boxing? What was the pay like? Was it good?
No, the pay is terrible. Yeah, you don't fight for money. You can eventually make a lot, but anybody who let's put it like this: if you're fighting for money, it's because you don't have any other ways to fight
Yeah.
or any other ways to earn money, man. Because it's not that much money. It's disproportionately, and you really and unless you get signed, you're gonna and most guys aren't signed to a promoter. You're gonna be fighting realistically at a loss when you factor in cost of training, equipment, tests, licenses, versus what you'll make selling. You'll be fighting at a loss. Equipment it's not easy.
So did you enter into any street fights like when you were on the streets and people tried to mess with you? Did you?
No, 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 no. Not sir. Because I don't carry myself or in places where that's even an issue, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that you know first I recognize just how dangerous fighting is.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure I never stayed around that. And on top of that, man, I'm an easygoing guy, man. I'm a diplomat. I don't want things to go poorly. I want things to go well and get along with everybody. I'm much more likely to talk down a fight than start one. I don't get mean and get up in people's faces. That ain't my problem.
That's that's
So
that's actually good because I feel like the better fighters don't cause trouble. It's always the
well, yeah,
people.
not only that, man, because like when you can punch, man, that you can hurt people
Yeah,
bad. Like
yeah.
it's not even like comparable.
Mhm.
Once you know how to hit, like if I like the way I punch, if I hit somebody, I'd kill them. I'd like realistically, and I'd have to go. And that sounds crazy or boastful, but it's not that easy. It's not that hard to kill somebody with a punch.
Really.
So yeah, once you know what you're doing, you
Yeah.
you can do a lot of, I mean, just a lot of damage.
Mm.
So you got to be careful, and that's one of the cool things that I learned from fighting. You got to be careful.
So how I'm going to have to ask you, how do you kill somebody from a punch?
If you sucker punch somebody with a right cross, um, and they're not looking, and you're not even if they are looking, and you catch them right on the chin, what often happens, a lot of guys end up in jail for this. The person falls immediately because you can't take that kind of punch if you're not ready for it, and even trained fighters can't take it. Um, they throw that punch, they fall, hit their head, and die. That's what happens a lot of times.
Yeah.
And because you threw off a punch and you can go to jail for 10 years for that.
Street fights are not it at all, but
Yeah,
it's only advisable for self-defense.
yeah. For self defense, man, get yourself a gun. It's not even. It's like get yourself a gun and learn how to run. Because here's the thing about engaging in street fights, and I've written about this several times on my blog and in several tweets about it, is that when you are in a street fight, there's no winning, right?
Yeah.
Either you survive and you'll likely have to go to court
Mm.
and win the fight in court, or you don't win the fight in the street. Now you're fighting in a hospital bed, or you're dead.
Yeah.
Like stay away from places where it's likely that you'll end up in that situation, and then should you end up in that, and even if you end up, here's the thing, man. Like I've really realized that there's no reason for you to end up in a street fight, man. Like, that you really gotta be unaware as hell, man. Like I know what the situation looks like that's going the street fight can lead to. And even if I don't know the exact situation generally, I know, all right, if I'm out in a certain part of town, uh alcohol involved, right? Like, I know everything that's going to make this a possibility to go there, and I don't want it to be there. And so, how badly do I need to be in this part of town? You
Yeah.
know, and that's it's a question people don't want to ask themselves. They want to do everything and have their cake and eat it too. And I'm like, nope. I can have just as much fun in a lot of places that aren't going to potentially get me killed.
Yeah.
You know.
So what if you find yourself in a place like that and somebody tries to hit you?
Man, you fucked, man. I don't know. That's why you just stay away from them places. I mean, look, you obviously, if you got to fight back, you fight back. And even still, I mean, I wouldn't even take it to the next level. I would hit the guy and then get out of there. Hit him, lay him down one time and don't go lean into it. Don't make it a fight. Get the hell out of there. If you gotta hit him once, if you gotta hit him, do that. But um, if you in a real dog fight, you stuck for it, and you stuck, man. I wouldn't even. That's a bad spot to be in, man.
It's been a nice episode. It's been a nice conversation. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you,
hey,
Ed.
no problem, man. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that. This has been a fun talk as well.
So where can people get you?
So I'm Ed Lattimore on all platforms, man. Ed Lattimore on Instagram, Ed Lattimore on Twitter, Ed Lattimore on YouTube, Ed Lattimore .com is my website. So if you ever want to get at me, man, and have a talk, then just check out Ed Lattimore any platform. I'm Ed Lattimore everywhere.
All right. Thank you for coming to the show. Have a nice day, man.
Ain't no problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming this far. My name is Tochko Koro. Find me on Twitter at Growthclinic. Growthclinic with two C's at the end. Or check my website at tochkokoro.com.